Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the First Congressional District Tax Information Session. Thank you all for joining us tonight. We are very excited to have representatives from the IRS and the Illinois Department of Revenue and the important information they will share with you tonight. Joining us tonight are our IRS Legislative Affairs Liaison, Susan Gaines, and Andrew Van Singel of the IRS Taxpayer Advocate Service. From the Illinois Department of Revenue, Communications Manager Terry Hortzman and Director of Legislative Affairs Richard Skro. Before we begin, I have a few housekeeping notes. This panel cannot provide individual or hypothetical tax advice. They can only answer general tax questions, but they will be more than happy to point you to some of the free IRS-sponsored services for those who qualify. Please feel free to place questions and comments in the chat. We will try our best to answer them for you tonight. Due to time limitations, we can only answer tax or IRS-related questions. If you have other concerns, please call our office at 773-779-2400, and someone from our office will assist you. Congressman Rush will be joining us shortly. And so without further ado, we'll start. Ms. Gaines, would you like to begin our meeting with your presentation?
Yes, thank you, Marcel. I really appreciate the opportunity to join you and the constituents of Congressman Rush to give you some information about tax time and what you need to know. So flip, if you will, change to the next slide for me. AC, thank you. So I've got a lot of information I'd like to share with you tonight. I want to give you some tax filing tips, provide you with some information on where you can get help filing your tax return, provide some what-if situations that you may have encountered during this pandemic over the past year. I want to go over some IRS services and online tools that are available to you. I'll discuss the first and second round economic impact payments and the 2020 recovery rebate credit. I'll talk about this third round of economic impact payments that are coming out now. And then I'll turn it over to Andrew Van Singel, who will talk with you a little bit about the IRS's Taxpayer Advocate Service. And I think we'll hold our question and answer session until after the Illinois Department of Revenue gets done with their discussion. So with that, I'm going to move on to the next slide. It is tax time. So I'd like to start off by giving you some tax filing tips. And next slide, AC. So the IRS began processing tax returns on February 12th. When you get ready to file your tax return, we would like for you to make sure that you file a complete and accurate tax return, and we highly recommend that you file that tax return electronically to avoid any delay in receiving your refund. Not only is electronic filing the fastest and safest way, it's also the most accurate way to file a tax return. Electronically filed tax returns have fewer errors, which means fewer delays. And also, when you file electronically, be sure to include your direct deposit information. Filing electronically and choosing direct deposit remain the fastest and safest way to file both an accurate tax return and to receive your refund. And speaking of refunds, most tax refunds are issued in less than 21 days. Sometimes they require a little bit longer if there's an additional review required, but generally most refunds are sent in 21 days or less. Refund information can be found on the IRS website on the Where's My Refund tool, which I'll show you the link in a few minutes on how to get to that. Also, the IRS has an app for your smartphone or your tablet. It's IRS #2 Go, so IRS To Go app. And of course, the opposite of getting a refund is when you owe taxes. We do recommend that you file your tax return on time. The deadline has been extended to May 17th. So file your tax return on time, even if you owe, file by May 17th. And you do that even if you can't afford to pay all of your taxes. So you should file and pay whatever you can. so you can avoid any interest and penalty. But there are several payment options available to you if you can't full pay. On our IRS website, there on the screen, irs.gov/payments, you'll find information about making payments in a long-term setting or a short-term payment agreement. You can find more information about maybe offer and compromise, which is where the IRS will settle for less than the full amount you owe. And you can also find more information about maybe asking the IRS to temporarily delay the collection activity until you can make payments if you can't afford to pay at all. Something new this year, for the first time ever, the Form 1040, which is the normal tax form that individuals file, and the 1040 SR, which is a tax form for seniors. Both of those forms are available for Spanish for the first time ever. In addition, there's a new schedule LEP, which is a request for change in language preference. If English is not your first language, you can use the new schedule LEP to inform the IRS that you have a preference to receive written communications from the IRS in a language other than English. There's 20 different language options on that form. And next slide, please. Now, you may be wondering where you can get help filing your tax returns. If you're computer savvy and your income's $72,000 or below, you can use the Irs Free File program. This is a public-private partnership between the IRS and many tax preparation and tax software industry leaders who provide their brand name products for free. Or if you need more personal assistance and your income is below $57,000, you can use our volunteer income tax assistor locator or call the number on the screen to find somewhere local you can get free tax help. Or if your income's above one of those amounts, or you have a more complex return, maybe a business return, you might need a tax professional. So we have on our webpage choosing a tax professional tool that will help you find the right tax preparer to help you with your tax return. Now, you expect your tax return preparer to be skilled in both tax preparation and to accurately file your income tax return. You're trusting your tax return preparer with your most personal information. They know about your income, your marriage, your children, your birth dates, your address, your social security numbers, your most personal financial information. And although most tax return preparers do provide outstanding and professional service, some individuals are hurt financially each year because they choose the wrong tax return preparer. We want to make sure that you know how to avoid unethical ghost return preparers. Now, these ghost tax return preparers are people that you pay to do your taxes, but they refuse to sign your tax return as the paid preparer. These unscrupulous ghost preparers will print the return and tell you to just sign it and mail it to the IRS. Or they may e-file the return for you, but they refuse to digitally sign the tax return as the paid return preparer. By law, anyone that prepares a tax return or assists in preparing a federal tax return for a fee, so you're paying them to do it, they must have a valid practitioner tax identification number, or PTIN. In addition, these paid tax return preparers must sign your return and include their PTIN on the return. If you pay someone to do your tax return and they don't sign it, that is a huge red flag that this tax return preparer may be just looking to make a fast buck by promising a big refund or by charging fees based on the size of your refund. These ghost tax return preparers may also require that you pay in cash and not provide a receipt, or they may invent income in order to qualify you for a tax credit, or claim fake deductions in order to boost the amount of your refund. And sometimes they even direct deposit your refund into their bank account instead of yours. We just want to urge you to make sure that you choose your tax return preparer wisely and use some of these tools that I've mentioned here on the screen. Next slide, please. Now, there's some other changes and some special circumstances related to COVID-19 that the IRS wants you to think about before you file your tax return. People are facing financial difficulties, and you may find that there's a tax impact to certain events you've encountered, such as job loss, debt forgiveness, or maybe you had to tap into your retirement fund. In addition, the information on your 2020 tax return may look different than it did on your 2019 tax return. You should check the IRS's What Ifs for Struggling Taxpayers webpage for some scenarios that may have a tax impact on your family. Understanding how last year's changes affected you and your family and your tax return is very important. The IRS created this webpage just for you, and on this page you're going to find some what-if scenarios that could be very helpful to you. There's job-related situations such as, what if I lost my job? Or what if I received unemployment for the first time? What if my income declined? Or what if I'm searching for a job? What if my employer went out of business? What if I had my own business, but I had to close it? What if I had to take money out of my retirement account or my 401k dropped in value? You'll find all of those under the job-related category on the page. And then there's debt-related situations. What if you had to sell your home for a loss? What if you had debt that was forgiven? What if you became insolvent or you had to file bankruptcy? And then there's also tax-related situations on the page. What if I can't pay? What if I already have a payment plan and I can't afford to make my payment? What if the IRS has filed a tax lien on my home, or there's a garnishment on my wages and that's creating a hardship? What if I have a problem with the IRS I can't resolve? Or what if I need legal representation to help me with my tax problems, but I can't afford that representation? You'll find all of this and more on the What Ifs for Struggling Taxpayers webpage on irs.gov. Next slide, please. Now, the IRS also has a variety of other help available for you on our website, www.irs.gov. We have around-the-clock information available, and it is the fastest way to get assistance from the IRS. Millions of people use our website every year to help file and pay their taxes, to get information about their tax accounts, and to get answers to tax law questions. The first thing I have listed here is the online account tool. You can use the online account tool to find out how much you owe, what your payment history is, if you've had any scheduled or pending payments to come out of your bank account, key information from your most recent tax return, digital copies of notices from the IRS. You can't remember how much that first or second economic impact payment was. You can find all of that and more on the online tax account. To obtain access to your online account, you will have to go through a secure access platform, and there's more information on that page about what secure access requires for you to access your account. Now, another tool available on the website is the Interactive Tax Assistant. This is a tool that provides answers to several tax law questions specific to your individual circumstances. Based on your input, you answer a series of questions, and the tool can help you determine all kinds of things, such as if you even have to file a tax return, or what is your filing status? Should you file married filing separate, or can you file head of household? Can you claim someone as a dependent? Is this specific type of income taxable? Am I eligible to claim this tax credit? Can I deduct expenses? And more. You're going to find topics using the search feature, or there's a category list on the page. And then there's more information on our website to help you. There's our Let Us Help You page. It'll point you in the right direction to get help with most tax questions. It provides a list of phone numbers you can call for certain circumstances. And there's also an IRS services guide. It's IRS publication 5136. It lists all the sites I've mentioned today, plus many other available IRS services. And I saved the best for last. If you've ever been waiting on a tax refund before, you probably already know about the Where's My Refund tool. Where's My Refund has the most up-to-date information available about your refund, and it is updated daily, overnight, so there's no reason to check it more than once a day. Next slide, please. Now I want to talk about the stimulus payments. The economic impact payments are very commonly referred to as stimulus payments. And the first two payments were based on your 2018 or your 2019 tax return. Or if you didn't file a tax return, you may have used our non-filer portal that we had available last year. Or maybe your payment was based on your Social Security, veterans, or railroad retirement benefits. These economic impact payments were issued to eligible individuals, and the first two came in 2 rounds. The first payment was up to $1,200 or $2,400 if you filed jointly with a spouse, plus up to $500 for any qualifying children. And then the second round payment was up to $600 per individual, $1,200 if you filed jointly, plus another $600 for any qualifying children. These payment amounts were reduced if your income was above certain limits, and these payments are not taxable. Now, at this time, the IRS and the Treasury Department have issued all of the first and second round payments that could be issued due to the statutory deadlines for getting those payments out. If you did not receive, for whatever reason, the full amount or the full amount or less than the full amount, you may qualify for the 2020 recovery rebate credit. But you have to claim it on your tax return in order to receive the credit, and you need to do this even if you don't normally file. Now, the economic impact payments, the first two, were paid as an advance payment of the 2020 recovery rebate credit, and it has similar eligibility requirements, except that the eligibility requirements are based on your 2020 tax return rather than your 2018 or 2019 tax return. For example, some people may have received less than the full amount of one of the first two payments because their income was too high in 2018 or 2019. And they can now claim the 2020 recovery rebate credit because their income was lower for 2020. Or perhaps somebody was claimed as a dependent on someone else's tax return in 2018 or 2019, but cannot be claimed as a dependent on someone's tax return in 2020. They may now be eligible for the 2020 recovery rebate credit. If you're eligible, and I've said this before, if you didn't receive the full amount or only a partial amount, you can claim the 2020 recovery rebate credit when filing your 2020 tax return if you meet those eligibility requirements. You must file a 2020 return and claim that credit, even if you're not required to file. And you can go to irs.gov/RRC for recovery rebate credit for more information, including eligibility and qualifications. Next slide, please. Now, following approval of the American Rescue Plan Act, the third round of economic impact payments began reaching individuals over this past week. These payments will be sent by direct deposit, which many people have already received theirs by direct deposit. Additional batches of payments will be sent in the coming weeks by direct deposit and through the mail as a paper check or an EIP debit card. A third round of payments, those that were authorized by the American Rescue Act, differ from earlier payments in several respects. The third payment will be larger for most people. Most people will get $1,400 per person, including all dependents on their tax return. Typically, this means a single person with no dependents will get $1,400, while a family of 4, a married couple with 2 dependents, will get $5,600. Now, unlike the first two payments, the third stimulus payment is not restricted to children under 17. So eligible families will receive a payment based on all their qualifying dependents claimed on the return, including older relatives like college students or adult children with disabilities or parents or grandparents. So any dependent on the return would also qualify you for up to $1,400. There's no action needed to receive these payments. They will be automatic, and in many cases, similar to how you received your first and second round payments in 2020. You can check the IRS's Get My Payment tool available on irs.gov, and you can check now to see if your payment's already been sent. If it tells you no information is available, it doesn't mean you're not going to receive one. It just means we haven't gotten to you yet. Next slide, please. Now, more eligible people will get this third economic impact payment automatically and won't need to take any additional action. The IRS is going to use available information to determine eligibility and to issue the third payment. We're going to do this for people who filed a 2020 tax return or filed a 2019 tax return if the 2020 return hasn't been submitted or processed yet. Or maybe you didn't file a 2020 or a 2019 tax return, but you used the non-filer portal we had available last year. And then our federal benefit recipients, those that were eligible for Social Security, railroad retirement, SSI, or veterans benefits, and they were eligible for those benefits as of December 31st, even if you don't usually file a tax return, you will automatically receive a payment. Now, the IRS is currently working with those agencies to get updated payment information for 2021 to assist the IRS with issuing these stimulus payments. A date has not yet been determined for that group. And I don't have it on the screen, but irs.gov/EIP for economic impact payment at www.irs.gov/EIP. Oh, I do have it on the next slide, AC. Sorry. Next slide, please. irs.gov/EIP is the best place to find information about who's eligible for the third economic impact payment and what incomes qualify, how the IRS will know where to send your payment. It has information about what if you changed your bank account or what if you moved. It talks about whether people will receive a paper check or a debit card. It talks about how married couples are affected if only one spouse has a Social Security number, or if you didn't file a tax return at all, do you need to do anything in order to get a payment? More information about the economic impact payments, including frequently asked questions, can be found at irs.gov/EIP and irs.gov/getmypayment. And for other COVID-19 related tax relief, visit irs.gov/coronavirus. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Andrew Van Single to talk about the Taxpayer Advocate Service. Next slide, please, AC.
Great. Thanks, Susan. My name is Andrew Van Single, and I'm the local taxpayer advocate for the Chicago Taxpayer Advocate Service office. And I just wanted to give you a brief overview of Taxpayer Advocate and try to be as brief as possible so we have as much time as possible for our question and answer session. So as you can see on the slide, Taxpayer Advocate is an independent organization within the IRS that helps taxpayers and protects taxpayer rights. We can offer help if your tax problem is causing a financial difficulty, or if you've been unable to resolve the issue with the IRS, or if you believe that an IRS system, process, or procedure just isn't working the way that it was intended. TAS helps all taxpayers, so you can be an individual, a business, or an exempt organization such as a library or a hospital. We help taxpayers, we help the representatives, and all of our services that we provide are done at no cost. So TAS primarily works on individual issues, but we also work on systemic advocacy. And systemic advocacy means that we're looking at more big picture issues or issues that are impacting more than one taxpayer. And we try to advocate for change at the IRS or within the tax laws. Next slide. Before coming to Taxpayer Advocate, we're not, if you get something in the mail, the automatic reaction shouldn't be to come to Taxpayer Advocate. We ask that you try to resolve the problem on your own. And if you're unsuccessful, whether you can't get a hold of someone at the IRS after trying to call several times, or you just weren't able to make contact, then you can come to us and we would be happy to assist you. And if we take your case, you are going to get assigned a case advocate that's going to be with you every step of the way. So instead of calling the IRS 5 times and talking to 5 different people, you're going to have that single point of contact. And your advocate's going to listen to you, help you understand what needs to be done, and stay with you until the process is over. And TAS employees, they know the IRS, they know how to navigate the system, and they're going to be with you until your case is resolved. Next slide. In addition to providing direct help to taxpayers and also working on systemic advocacy, TAS also has oversight of 2 other programs, which is the low-income taxpayer clinics and the Taxpayer Advocacy Panel. So the clinics are independent from the IRS and from Taxpayer Advocate, but they receive partial funding through a grant from the IRS, which is administered through our program. The clinics can help taxpayers whose income is below 250% of the federal poverty level and who need to resolve a tax issue with the IRS. So the clinics really can help on all areas of tax controversy, whether it's an audit, appeal, going to tax court, collections, exam, whatever it may be. The services are offered at no cost. And for more information about the clinics, there is a link up on the slide here. There's a publication, 4134, which has a list of all the clinics across the country. There's about, I think, around 130 clinics. So, and in the Chicagoland area, there are 5 clinics, as well as Notre Dame has a clinic as well, and they represent taxpayers residing in the Chicago area as well. So check them out if you're having a tax issue and you need, you're not able to afford an attorney. They can help you out with that. Now, TAP, on the other hand, this is the Taxpayer Advocacy Panel. It's a federal advisory committee, and it's comprised of independent citizen volunteers who are going to go out and do outreach to listen to taxpayers, identify taxpayers' needs, and make suggestions for improving the IRS and customer satisfaction on behalf of taxpayers. So in this way, the TAP members have the opportunity to provide direct feedback to the IRS. And TAP includes members from all 50 states, including the District of Columbia in Puerto Rico, and they even have an international member who lives abroad. So if you're interested in learning more about TAP, you can go onto their website, improveirs.org, or get more information through TAS's website, which is just taxpayeradvocate.irs.gov. So on the next page, we really encourage you to check out TAS's website and to follow us on social media. This is a great way to get up-to-date tax news and information about problem-solving events, which are events that we do across the country, where pre-COVID we may go to a library or some other community center and set up a booth, and we'll just talk to taxpayers. And if they have individual issues, we can try to resolve them on the spot. So again, there's lots of great information there, especially in these times with, it seems like there's lots of changes going on with tax administration. It's a great place to go and get information and get it right from the source, instead of hearing you may have heard information about taxes from a friend or family member, and sometimes it's accurate, sometimes it's inaccurate. And so this is a great place to get up-to-date information from an accurate source. So that's all for me for right now. I'll turn it over to our friends at the Department of Revenue to give a state perspective of what's going on this year for taxes. Thank you. Oh, Marcel, you're muted.
Before we continue with a presentation from the Illinois Department of Revenue, we have Congressman Bobby Rush, who has joined us. Congressman Rush, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Marcel. Please forgive me. I've had a combination of problems. One is my 4:30 meeting did go over a little longer than I expected, but my constituents were discussing some very serious problems, and I couldn't tell them to leave my office. And then when I attempted to get on this call or this session, my internet all of a sudden wasn't working. But we've got that resolved. So again, I want to say good evening to everyone, and I certainly want to thank you for joining this information session. And last year was a very difficult year for all of us, and we all have suffered under the devastating effect of the pandemic, and businesses and families in the first congressional district suffered, as well as the entire nation. We are in the Congress, so we were working hard to pass several relief bills, and I am proud to have supported each and every one of the relief bills. And as you know, have heard from our guest earlier, the most recent and the most far-reaching of those bills was the American Rescue Plan, the ARP, that was signed just last week by President Biden. And all of you are eligible, or most of you are eligible for direct payments for individuals, for families, for small businesses, and we also included the tax credits for children, and those tax credits lift 50% of children out of poverty. We included enhanced unemployment benefits, and I guess I hope that most of you got the $600 in January, and you also we followed that up with placing another $1,400 into your pockets, and I hope that you have all received those $2,000 that came from Washington, D.C. And certainly you have been exposed to the individuals at the IRS, and you will be getting more information from the state on this hearing. So again, I just want to thank each and every one of you for appearing on this in this session, and I hope that all your questions are answered appropriately. And if you have any additional questions of my office, please call us at 773-779-2400. That's 773-779-2400. Thank you, and I turn it back over to the guest and to the moderator.
Thank you, Congressman. And now we would like to hear from Mr. Hortzman or Mr. Scrow from the Department of Revenue.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Congressman Rush, for inviting us today, and thank you all for joining us. Wanted to go through some of our individual income tax filing season information with you. If we could pull up that PowerPoint, that'd be wonderful. And discuss a few of the points for the season. So far, the Illinois Department of Revenue began accepting 2020 state individual income tax returns on Friday, February 12th. This is the same time that the IRS opened its season. Currently, the Illinois Department of Revenue has received over 2.4 million IL-1040s for this tax year. That's almost 93%, or 2.3 million taxpayers have elected to file electronically, and over 177,000 filed paper returns. Now, last year, to give you some perspective, the department received over 6.4 million individual income tax returns, and 87% of those were filed electronically, with 63% of individuals receiving refunds. So as you can see, we're a little over a third of the way in the filing season with folks filing. Next slide, please. Now, today, March 18th, the Department of Revenue announced the extension of our Illinois individual income tax filing and payment deadline from April 15th to May 17th. The reason for this, we align with the Internal Revenue Service at the federal level whenever possible. So that is an announcement we made today. That filing extension takes effect automatically. There's no further action required on your part when you're filing your individual income taxes. to take advantage of the additional month. Next slide, please. Now, if you need additional time, individual taxpayers, you can file beyond May 17th. The deadline is automatically granted a 6-month extension of time to file the tax return. However, make sure you use our Form IL-505, which is the automatic extension payment for individuals filing form, to make a payment by the May 17th. Penalties and interest do begin to accrue on any remaining unpaid balances on May 18th. So taxpayers will automatically avoid that interest and penalties on taxes paid before May 17th. And stay on that slide if you would. May 17th, the one thing I wanted to discuss was the estimated income tax payments. If any of you fall into that category, the May 17th income tax filing extension does not impact estimated tax payments that are due April 15th, 2021. So if you do file quarterly, these are still due on April 15th, and they're based on either 100% of your estimated or 90% of actual liability for 2021 or 100% of actual liabilities for 2020 or 2019. Next slide, please. Wanted to talk real quick about the Earned Income Tax Credit. The Internal Revenue Service is providing temporary relief for EITC for tax year 2020. If your federal earned income was higher in 2019 than 2020, you can use the 2019 amount to figure your federal EIT for 2020. You will make this decision on your federal return, and the Illinois Earned Income Credit is simply calculated as 18% of your current federal EITC. So you can, to figure your Illinois EITC amount, and for schedules and instructions, you can take a look at Internal Revenue Service's publication 596 on that particular topic. Next slide, please. So the 2020 individual income tax return looks something like this. If you still, I suppose if you still file by paper, a lot of us do electronic, but to let you know, there's no major changes for 2020, for the 2020 IL 1040, other than federal line references and the exemption allowance on line 10. And this year, next slide, please. The exemption allowance has increased to $2,325 for the 2020 tax year. Next slide. Other items to note on the individual income tax return season. The income tax rate remains at 4.95% for tax years ending on or after December 31st, 2020. And then the federal charitable contributions deduction for individuals who claim the standard deduction is included in the computation of federal adjusted gross income. Therefore, for Illinois purposes, no adjustment is necessary. Next line, please. Just real quick on the tax schedules, some of the changes that happened this year, the Form IL 2210, the computation of penalties for individuals changed, the Schedule IL WIT, the Illinois Income Tax Withheld form schedule changed, and the instructions for credit for tax paid to other states and non-resident and part-year resident computation has changed as well. That's just an FYI. Next slide, please. Now, when it comes to your state refunds, much like the IRS, we strongly encourage you to file electronically. Select a direct deposit into a checkings or savings for the fastest refund. Right now, electronically filed Irs-Free returns for Illinois, when you choose direct deposit, we're estimating, about 4 to 6 weeks. For people that file by paper, Irs-Free, it's 8 to 16 weeks, and that extra time is required to allow us to data capture those returns when they come in and process the mail as it comes in as well. Now, these estimates are simply that. We are certainly working to beat these estimates, but just to give you a general ballpark in case you're wondering where your refund might be, these are the time frames that on average we're looking at this year. Next slide, please. So a few tips on speeding up your processing of your return. Make sure you file electronically, like I said. You can visit mytax.illinois.gov or see a tax professional. MyTax is Illinois' free IL-1040 filing system. So if you are looking to file your state return, you may do so for free through mytax.illinois.gov. Other tips, make sure you check your social security number and name. If you're married, include your spouse's social security and name, and make sure you double check that those are spelled correctly and you have the correct digits. If you received federally taxed social security benefits or qualified retirement income, you may be able to subtract it on line 5. And finally, make sure you attach a completed Schedule IL WIT for paper returns and all withholding forms. For instance, W-2s, 1099s, to support the amount support the amount you claim as Illinois income tax withheld on line 25. Next slide, please. A few additional tips. Enter the correct amount of estimated payments you made. Include any overpayment applied from a prior year. You can verify this on our website. Our website is tax.illinois.gov using our estimated payment inquiry. Also, make sure you include any required attachments, Schedule M's, Schedule ICRs, etc., with your Form IL-1040, and make sure to keep and have your supported documentation available if it might be requested of you. Next slide, please. If you're claiming property tax credit, make sure you have to enter the county in which the property is located and the property number on Schedule ICR Illinois credits. Also, make sure you review entries you made on each line of your tax return for accuracy, verify your calculations, and of course, sign your return either digitally or by hand. Next slide, please. So, some taxpayer filing options I wanted to tell you about. I alluded to MyTax Illinois earlier. That's our free filing software. Individuals may utilize MyTax Illinois also to make payments. If the department has a question, you can respond to department inquiries through MyTax Illinois, and you can check the status of your Illinois individual income tax refund using our Where's My Refund link through MyTax Illinois. You may also look up your ILPINs if you need to, amounts of estimated tax payments made, and when you need to, amounts reported on Form 1099-G with MyTax Illinois. Of course, also consult a tax professional or utilize tax software to file. And I know that the IRS alluded to free tax preparation assistance. That's available to low to moderate income families and older Illinoisans. The IRS has their volunteer income tax assistance and tax counseling for the elderly program. And AARP has a tax aid program, as well as Ladder Up, which offers virtual tax assistance. All of the Department of Revenue has additional information on all of these programs and links on our website, tax.illinois.gov. I encourage you, if you want to, you can check it out and see what might be available in your area this year. Next slide, please. So if you would like to need to contact the Department of Revenue, couple of tips. Number one, have the return or notice available when you are contacting the department so that we can verify your security. And if you're filing an individual return, marking third-party designee will allow the representative to discuss returns or letters without having a power of attorney on file. Our taxpayer assistance line is 1-800-732-8866. Our taxpayer assistance is open from 8:30 to 5 p.m. every day. And just to let you know, call wait times may be a little longer this year due to demand, but you can save time and avoid the wait by contacting the department by email. For individual income tax inquiries, that email address is listed there. It's rev.ta-iit@illinois.gov. That's strictly for individual income tax questions. We have a complete list on our website. If you need to contact other areas of the department by email for other needs, that information is readily available. Finally, walk-in assistance. If you do need to discuss your matter in person, in Chicago, we are located at the James R. Thompson Center, and our walk-up is available 8:30 to 5 p.m. every day. Next slide, please. So if you're looking for updates as the tax season goes on or in general, please visit our website. Again, that's tax.illinois.gov. We have the most up-to-date information there, forms and our schedules and instructions for this tax year. I'd also encourage you to sign up for our email and text subscription system that you may do so by heading to our website, again, tax.illinois.gov. And you can sign up with your email or your phone number to receive news and information directly to you. And you can choose the topics that you're most interested in learning more about. And that is all I had for this presentation. I thank you for joining. And thank you, Congressman Rush.
Okay. Thank you very much. A couple of things we want to mention. In the comments section, if you have questions, remember, we can't answer direct individual questions, only general questions concerning taxes. If you have a more complicated issue you'd like to discuss, you can call our office at 773-779-2400, and our office will attempt to assist you. We do have a few questions here, though. This first question, we'll ask our representatives from the IRS. If someone is on Social Security, what is the threshold that you have to pay taxes on those benefits?
Thank you, Marcel. If someone receives Social Security benefits, the first thing that it depends on is whether they are married or single. If they are married and file joint with their spouse, if their income, half of their Social Security plus all other income exceeds $32,000, then part of their Social Security could be taxable. If they're married and do not file jointly with their spouse, and they live with their spouse at any time of the year, automatically 85% of their Social Security benefits are taxable. If they're a single person, then it's half their Social Security plus all other income. If that's less than $25,000, none of their Social Security benefits would be taxable. If it's more than $25,000, some of their Social Security could be taxable. So there's a lot of different factors at play.
Okay. And here's another question. How much do I have to make before I'm required to file federal taxes and also state taxes for our revenue representatives? Susan, if you
So
could.
for federal tax, sure. For federal taxes, if your income exceeds $12,400, generally you would have to file a tax return. There's an exception to that. There are more than one exception. One of the exceptions is if you're self-employed and you make more than $600, then you have to file a tax return in order to pay your Social Security and Medicare taxes. Okay. Now, as for the state,
Terry or Richard?
Yeah, as for the state, Illinois couples on to federal tax code. So in Illinois, your taxable income starts with your federal adjusted gross income. So if you're required to file federally, then that would flow through to your Illinois filing. Terry, do you have anything to add to that?
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Nothing.
I think
Marcel, one thing to quick add to that too is that although you may not have a filing requirement, it still may be in your best interest to file a return, especially if you're entitled to refundable credits such as earned income credit, child tax credit, education credits, or if you're getting a healthcare subsidy premium tax credit. Filing on time early in the season electronically can also help prevent identity theft Generally, if you file a tax return and somebody tries to file one under your name or claim you as a dependent after that, that return will then get rejected. And so it's a good way to prevent identity theft. And sometimes if you need to get a bank loan or something like that, they need to see proof of earnings through a tax return. So just because you don't have to file a return, you still may want to do so. And if you don't earn a lot of money, that's where the VITA clinics can be really essential, because they can prepare your return at no cost for you.
Okay, and can you repeat, I think it was in the slide portion of your presentation, that if someone did not receive any or part of the EIP payment and they normally wouldn't file income tax, would that be the time for them to file if they normally aren't required to?
Yes, yes. If they did not receive the full amount of the first or second economic impact payment, they would want to file a 2020 tax return in order to receive the recovery rebate credit, which is the reconciliation of those two economic impact payments. In addition, if they didn't normally file a 19 or 20 tax return and they don't receive Social Security or VA or railroad retirement benefits, they may want to file to get in the IRS system for the third economic impact payment as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think we have some questions from our audience. Let's see. Here's from Danielle. She's asking, why are people who just filed are getting their return? I'm assuming she means their refund, but people who filed the week the IRS opened are being told to wait 10 weeks.
So I can take a crack at this, Susan, if you want to have anything additional. But this is a big challenge, because a lot of taxpayer situations are very different. And so I think that's why these issues can be very frustrating, is because if you file exactly as this individual stated, you filed the day e-filing opened and everybody around you is filing after but getting their refunds earlier, there's a couple factors that go into that. So by law, certain refundable credits, the IRS was not allowed by law to issue those refunds until, I believe, about 3 or 4 weeks. So even though the filing season was they began accepting returns in mid-February, earned income credit, child tax credit, and I believe American Opportunity Credit, those refunds, because they had to essentially allow additional time to verify that the income and withholding was correct, those refunds didn't go out immediately. I believe they were delayed 3 or 4 weeks. There could also be a number of issues on the processing end of it. So when you file a tax return, the IRS is going to get, let's just, for example, say that you get one W-2 and that's the only thing on your return. Well, your employer gives you that W-2, but that employer also submits it to the IRS. And sometimes there's issues with the transmission of that. And so the IRS doesn't get it, even though it shows up on your return. And so when your return is going through processing, it doesn't match. And so because early on in the filing season, there's lots of that data that's being updated, it will go through and it will essentially resequence every week. And if everything is matches, then that refund may go out. But again, it may take additional time. And if there is a mismatch, then it's going to have to be corrected. Either the taxpayer is going to have to correct the return because the income or withholding was not correct, or the employer has to submit a corrected W-2 or something to that extent. Susan, did you have something to add to that?
Sorry, trying to find that mute button. No, I really think that you covered pretty much everything, Andrew. Some returns just take longer to process.
And that's just a plug for that. Where's my refund tool? Check it. It's updated once a day. I would say after April 15th, as we've been told, if you still don't have that refund, I would call the IRS and see if you can get some indication as if whether it's just delayed processing, or it's a matter of there's actually an issue with the return. So when we go, Taxpayer Advocate goes out into the community, does a lot of outreach, and we have this in January, this Get It Right the First Time campaign. And what we strongly encourage taxpayers is to avoid some of the common ways in which your return can get delayed processing, which is doing things like using your last pay stub instead of your W-2, or if you don't include all of your W-2s. I know sometimes, if you have 3 or 4 jobs over the course of the year and you're waiting for that one last W-2, and that individual or that employer, maybe they went out of business or whatever the issue is, you can't, you don't want to wait another 2, 3, 4 weeks to get that W-2. So you file the return. That could actually cause much worse issues down the road. A big issue we saw last year, some of the people on this call may have experienced this, is if you didn't include your 1095A, which is your healthcare subsidy for your premium tax credit, it went into this department within the IRS that was significantly impaired because of COVID. And so they're still working those cases even today. So cases that were the taxpayer sent in information back in March, a full year has gone by, and they still don't have the refund. So that's why it's critically important, if you get a document and you don't know what it is, a 1099 or a 1095A, make sure that you bring that to your preparer, or you call the IRS or reach out to a qualified tax professional, because if you don't get it right when you file the return, it could cause, as we saw last year, delays of over a year, which is really unfair to taxpayers. But a lot of these issues could easily be avoided if you file a correct return electronically early in the filing season.
Okay, thank you. Here's another question. This is for Susan. Please repeat that I need to file for 2020 in order to get the third stimulus payment if I don't normally file and I did not receive the second payment of $600. Is that correct?
Yes, and I apologize. My internet's going in and out. I live in a very rural area, so if I'm skipping around, I do apologize. So, yes, if you did not file a 2019 or a 2020 tax return and you don't normally receive Social Security, VA, or railroad retirement benefits, then the IRS really doesn't have an idea that you exist and are entitled to this payment. So we will need you to file a 2020 tax return, just a simple return with basic information to get you in the system in order to send you the economic impact payments, all 3 of them actually. If you're not in the system, you probably didn't receive the first 2 either. So yes, you would have to file something to get those.
Okay, I think we have time for one more. This is from Felicia. When will the next batch of stimulus payments go out? Also, is there some kind of glitch because Get My Payment continues to say status unavailable? I guess this
I'll
will be
take.
okay.
Yeah, I'll take that one as well. I'm hearing that question quite often. So as of yesterday, 90 million payments have went out. That leaves roughly 70 million to go. So most of the payments that have already went out are the ones that we had direct deposit information readily available to send them out. For whatever reason, we still have 70 million to go. So we're updating the system daily. As we get more information, we're putting it in there. So again, that Get My Payment tool on irs.gov, it's the first thing when you go to the IRS website, irs.gov/Get My Payment, if you want to go directly to it. But we're updating it again, just like the Where's My Refund, we update it daily. And as more and more people come up for their payment to be issued, it'll show up there. Get My Payment will say status not available until your payment date has been scheduled.
Okay. All right. That looks like this looks like that's all the time we have for tonight. I'd like to thank the panel for taking the time to be with us tonight. The information, I hope, was useful to our viewers and very helpful. we encourage you to take advantage of some of the resources posted on Congressman Rush's website at rush.house.gov. There's additional information there that you may find helpful. These resources are also posted in the comments section on this stream. To make sure you get other notifications about our information series such as this and other available resources in the 1st District, we encourage you to subscribe to our newsletter. You can apply for our newsletter at https://rush.house.gov/contact/newsletter. You can also find that information in the comments section. I'd also like to remind everyone, please don't forget the filing deadline is May 17th, 2021. If you have any more questions or need assistance from Congressman Rush's office, call us at 773-779-2400. And please remember, we are not out of the woods yet in this fight against the coronavirus. Wear a mask and get vaccinated. Thank you so much for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Good night.